So today I'm going to make Japanese curry, but not just any Japanese curry. I'm going to make tomato curry or Japanese tomato curry. This is something that I noticed not a lot of people do outside Japan. Normally people would just, brown their meat, cook their vegetables, and then add in the curry roux, which is fine because that's probably how the manufacturers intended it. But you can actually improve the dish just by adding a few ingredients, like in this case, tomato. So what I have here, chicken thighs that I've patted dry because it's important to pat dry your protein before frying them so that it doesn't spit at you. There's a huge difference if you actually do this, and you'll thank yourself later if you do it. So while waiting for the oil to heat up, I'm just going to cut my carrots oblique. So basically you make a diagonal slice, and then you turn the vegetable. Then you just keep on making diagonal slices like that. I'm gonna cut this fairly small because I want this to cook fast. I'm hoping to cook this in under 15 minutes. But if we can't do that, then that's fine. Oil's already hot enough. Then I'm gonna cook the chicken. Lay it skin side down and skin side first, so you can really get that skin crispy. So my vegetables is just going to be carrots, potatoes, and onion, which is fairly standard for Japanese curry. I'm not even gonna peel this. You can peel it if you want. I'm not going to because I don't know. I like the skin. I may have cut this a bit too small, but that's fine. You want to check on your chicken so it doesn't burn. Maybe I'm just gonna quarter the onions. Honestly, just cut this however you like. If you want them thinly sliced, then go for it. I'm gonna cut them into quarters, so the size is similar to the other vegetables, so it cooks somewhat at the same time. We've got our vegetables here, and the chicken getting ready, yeah. It's ready to flip. Once it's browned, for the tomatoes, I'm going to use two kinds actually. Tomato paste and crushed tomatoes. I got this from a can because really convenient to use canned tomatoes, but if you have fresh tomatoes, you can also use those. I think the other side is, yeah, it's browned enough. Just gonna set them aside. And then we can start cooking, sauteing the vegetables. Maybe like just reduce the amount of oil in here. So there's tomato paste, and this is crushed tomatoes. If you've seen my previous video where I made tomato pasta, this is the exact same tomato sauce that I used. Now it might seem weird, like using you're using a tomato pasta sauce for curry. Well, you know, this is just canned tomatoes, onions, salt, sugar, and a little bit of basil, dried basil. So it's not that far off from just your regular canned tomato. If you have canned tomato, definitely use that. Like I said, if you have fresh tomatoes, what you can do is you can dice them and then add it here actually. So if you're going to use fresh tomatoes, you're going to chop them up along with this, and you're going to saute it until the tomatoes glaze the bottom of the pan. And I'm going to show you what it's supposed to look like with the tomato paste, what it means to glaze the bottom of the pan. So I'm just going to add the tomato paste first. The reasoning behind that is, if I add this crushed tomatoes first, it's gonna take a long time to reduce the tomato because it has a lot of moisture in it, and we want that to reduce to glaze the bottom so you get that wonderful fond. Because really, developing flavor is just a matter of glazing and deglazing, right? So first, we're glazing, compared to a tomato paste where this has much less moisture than the canned tomato. So it is easier to reduce this, right? You can even see that it's starting to brown. That's good. It's not burnt, alright? When you want to get to this stage, and if you're using fresh tomatoes, once you get to a stage similar to this, then I'm gonna add my crushed tomatoes. So at first, since the tomatoes, again, as I said, have a lot of moisture in it, it's going to deglaze the pan. As you can see, like the fond that's developing here, it's easier to scrape now because the moisture from the tomato lifted it up. But as we cook this, the tomato is going to reduce, and once it reduces, it's going to glaze the bottom of the pan. So when cooks say anything like layering flavors, this is one of the things that they actually mean. That it's a process of glazing the bottom, deglazing, glazing, deglazing, glazing, deglazing. You do that enough times, and you're really going to, well, develop in flavor. So really, we're just waiting for this to get to a point where, yeah, it starts to glazes the bottom. You can also listen to some of the auditory cues. You know, when you first added you might notice when you first added the crushed tomatoes, there was a violent splatter, right? That's because of the moisture reacting to the oil. But as we cook this down, you notice that that splatter is starting to settle down, which means that, you know, the moisture has evaporated and it's starting to caramelize the sugars inside the tomato, starting to get that Maillard browning. That's what we want. Maybe don't toss it too much like what I'm doing, so you don't actually interrupt the process of caramelization. But at this point, I'm gonna add water. And I'm gonna put back my chicken. Honestly, on its own, you don't even have to like put in the curry. Like this is a good enough, I guess, chicken stew. Maybe add some chicken stock instead of just plain water. But for now, I'm just going to wait for this to cook. I'm going to wait for the vegetables to soften and for the chicken to cook fully through. And you should cover this actually. Once this is ready for the next step, I'm just gonna come back. So, see you later. So now at this point, the vegetables are cooked through. It's soft, and the chicken is also cooked through. We can now add the curry roux. This took about, I want to say 10 minutes. So when adding the curry roux, you're really gonna need a strainer if you want to add this evenly. And you might want to choose a smaller strainer than this if you have it. It's just gonna make your life a whole lot easier. But, well, if you don't have it, then yeah. I'm using Extra Hot Golden Curry by S&B. It's like the gold standard for making Japanese curry, that brand. But it's fine if you can't find curry roux, because you can just make it yourself. If you've seen my last video, Katsu curry in 15 minutes, I show you there how you can actually make curry sauce without any roux. It's essentially just making regular roux and adding curry spices to it. And I don't know if you can notice this, but half of this roux is actually homemade. Like this block, I made this myself based on the recipe that they have at the back. So for the spices, if you wanna, I guess, base your curry roux from this particular brand, it's curry powder, sugar, MSG, chili pepper, and celery seed mustard. There you go. Maybe add cumin also. But essentially, that's how you make Japanese curry. So I have just a strainer and a whisk, so I can work the roux into the broth without having any like lumps in it. Just keep on working it. Yeah, that seems to be done. And before you add the next block, you want to incorporate the sauce evenly first. So I'd say that's good. That's like the consistency that I'm looking for. If you want it soupy, add more liquid. If you want it less soupy, add more roux or add less liquid. But for me, this is good enough. Actually, this is a waste. We can't, we can't let this go to waste. So. Ooh. For me, I added only 2 blocks, and it thickened it pretty well. You might need more, you might need less, depends really. So to plate this, just like a regular Japanese curry, you have your steamed rice. Make sure you get those vegetables because I like vegetables. You don't need to be fancy with this, it's just curry. But if you do want to get fancy, I have some parsley leaves, dried parsley leaves. Just sprinkle that on top. You don't have to, and frankly, I don't think a lot of people do, but there it is. And well, yeah, there you have it. Japanese tomato curry.